Hello, everyone. Hello there, Jessica.
Hey there.
Nice to have you on the show. This is my second show on YouTube. So you're the second guest on the show. It's so nice. I've always wanted to go on YouTube. We've been doing it on Beacon of Light Radio. We thought we'd change it and go on YouTube for a change, and get more listeners.
Oh, yeah, you can get a way bigger audience too. The more the better.
Exactly, but it's nice to have you on the show. Jessica is a
Thank you.
paranormal investigator, remote viewer based in Northwest Georgia. She is an active field research and member of the Enigma Research Group. Can we please
Yes.
welcome Jessica to the show?
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Tell us a bit about growing up in your childhood, and did you think you were different from everybody else?
Yeah, I didn't know I was different. I think I was a little different as a kid growing up. I had a really fun childhood. Okay. And, I come from a family who was very open minded. And I was never made fun of for liking ghosts and, Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. It was encouraged in my home. So, I think I've always been kind of psychically switched on in a way, and I just thought that was normal. I come from a long line of very intuitive, especially women in my family, and my sister as well. But my mom, my grandmother, my all of the women in our family, and even my dad actually was very pretty psychic. I didn't get away with a whole lot when I was a kid.
Does it run in the family then?
Yeah,
Does
I
it
think
run
it runs in
in
the family.
generations?
Yes, I absolutely I do. I do. I think it does. But like I was saying, I do come from a very open-minded family, and so when I was a kid, I would always go to the library looking for ghost books, anything that had to do with ghosts or fortune tellers or
Okay.
UFOs. Yeah, I was really big into astronomy when I was a kid, and my first science project was about black holes.
Oh,
Because
how strange.
it was really strange as a little kid. I was really interested in black holes. So,
Where do you
but
think that came from then?
past life, I don't know. Probably knowing what I know now, it probably has something to do with the past life. I mean, I believe in reincarnation, and there's no telling. I do know that I used to take a blanket or my little mat that I slept on in school. I would take it out to the front yard at night when I was a kid, and I would watch for UFOs. I would lay on my blanket and look up into the sky at night. Uh, that was probably a little weird for people, but it wasn't weird to me. It was normal.
Probably, probably. How did you get interested in the paranormal then?
Well, I guess I was probably seeing ghosts as a kid. So that's probably from firsthand experience. And and like I said, checking out those books and about ghosts and paranormal things. Also, I where I grew up, I lived on a farm and we did not have cable television. We had the like three or four channels to watch. And once a year they would show like, I didn't get a whole lot of television with ghosts and stuff, but on Halloween, around Halloween, I get to watch a ghost show. And I remember seeing things like that. And so I always looked forward to that every year. I remember that. But I just got into it. It was just part of my life.
Yeah, very interesting. And I love anything like that. What do you think about the afterlife then?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that there is an afterlife. I know that I've had lots of family and friends who have passed over that have come back to talk to me, and even in my dreams. And you can't discount your dreams at night because I personally get messages in my dreams pretty often.
Do you
Uh,
write everything down, when you get a dream?
I
Do you have like
do.
a diary?
Yeah, I have dream journals. I have a whole stack of them. I've been doing that since I was a young woman. I guess in my 20s, I started writing my dreams down. Just as a journal and to kind of help me sort out things, that were going on in my life. I think it helps.
I think it's a good thing to write them down because if you ever get a chance to write a book,
Hmm.
write about
Yes.
your experiences.
Yeah. Well, I do that in the field actually. When I'm out doing the Bigfoot field research that I do, I've always kept a journal. And so anything that has happened to me from day one, I've written it down. So it's a,
Tell
a
us,
book in the
tell the
making.
listeners about some of your experiences in your field projects when you've been
Yes.
out there.
Yeah, well, around 2011, I met a group of gentlemen who are Bigfoot field researchers, and I went to go hear a lecture on Bigfoot that they gave on Sasquatch, and so I went with my mom, and I had a lot of questions because I didn't know for sure if Bigfoot was real, but I assumed, well, since I've been seeing ghosts, and most of my life, I figured, well, why would Bigfoot not be real if I'm seeing this other paranormal stuff? And so I asked them a bunch of questions at the end of the presentation, and they invited me to a expedition out in the woods. And so I went, and here I am today. I'm able to tell people about my encounters with Bigfoot and all the other high strangeness out in the mountains of North
Were you
Georgia.
ever frightened when you see things like that?
Not really. I can't say I'm not a little bit frightened at times, but I've been inoculated to the high strangeness. I'm actually pretty calm when it comes to scary situations because I've experienced so much of it. And that's where the remote viewing aspect kicks in. My entire team is actually trained in remote viewing, and it helps to keep our minds calm in the midst of chaos. So it's a good tool to have.
How
But
did
yeah,
you get to remote viewing then? Did you have somebody to teach you how to do it?
I did. Well, the gentleman who's the head of our team, of our field Bigfoot field research team, has an extensive background as a remote viewer and is highly trained in it. And so, when my team we were out in the field, we started having not only encounters with Bigfoot, but we were having ET encounters, and we were seeing UFOs and crafts flying over our head. We've even documented a portal, and we've sent people inside of it, and they came back out, and we have that as well. So we have a lot of very strange things that have happened out in the field. And he said, well, it's time to train everyone in remote viewing now, so that we can look deeper into these occurrences that happen out in the field as a
I
team.
say it's a great asset
Hmm.
to have
Yeah.
do remote viewing when you're out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To
It
open up and to find out more about it.
Yeah, that's what we do. And not only are we able to look into the areas that we research, but we're also able to see what happened in different events that we experience out there. And also, in our spare time, sometimes we are asked by local law enforcement to help find missing people and to help solve cold cases.
How do you find that then? When they come to you, say, so and so's been missing for months. Can you come and help us?
Yeah. Well, sometimes the head of our team has a relationship of some sort with people in law enforcement, and so they know just who to. They funnel it down to us, the information, and when I get a target like that, I have no idea what it is, because I do something called coordinate remote viewing, and I'm handed a set of numbers, and
Tell us a little bit more about that, because
yeah,
I'm sure the listeners will think, what does she mean by that?
I know it's weird, okay, but it's but it's actually really interesting. Remote viewing is a way to psychically find a target. Okay, for lack of a better term, it's
Right.
by using all of your senses, not knowing what the target is. Most likely, I mean, there are targets I get where I'm front loaded, where I kind of know a little bit about it, but most of the time I get a set of numbers, and that's all I have. And that set of numbers is has a target attached to it. So it's been assigned a target, and let's say it could be a historical event like the signing of the Declaration of Independence here, or it could be the Statue of Liberty, or it could be just anything. It could be a missing person. Well, I don't know what it is. And so when I get that number, I'm able to that set of numbers, I'm able to sit down at my desk with some
Mhm.
blank sheets of paper and a couple of pens, and I write the numbers down, and you plot out all the information that there's a process, by the way. It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's taken me many years to train in remote viewing to be able to be pretty good at it. But it's a process. It's basically a way to structure your all the information that comes to you psychically, and to write it down and to figure out what that target is. Because as soon as I write those numbers down, all this information floods in, and I can hear words, I can smell scents, I can I can feel things, I can taste things, I can smell, I can, all you take in everything that you sense, and you write it down, and you chart it out on the paper. And by the end of the session, I can pretty much figure out what that target is,
Right.
what those numbers mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an interesting thing about numbers and what they mean. Some people say 777 or 333 or something significant in some places. Them numbers mean something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these numbers actually don't, you can kind of like disregard them. They don't really mean anything other than they're assigned that target. So the numbers are just random. Actually, when it comes to remote viewing, now there is like there is meaning behind numbers. You're absolutely right. There's definitely meaning, and I see angel numbers every day. 222, okay, or 66
Yeah.
or something. I've had numbers that follow me around every day that are double digits and triple digits and quadruple digits. Um, but with remote viewing, those numbers are kind of, they don't mean a whole lot. Like, we don't really look into like the meaning behind those numbers other than what the target is. They're just random numbers. But yeah, it's really interesting. It can also be very taxing on your body and your mind, because you're in a scene, especially if you're looking for someone who has, like, let's just say, a missing person.
Hmm.
Every missing person that I have tried to locate was deceased. Okay, so, and that can be very emotionally straining on my body, because I'm communicating with someone who's passed over, and I'm able to talk to them and get inside their head and ask them what happened to them and where are they, and it can be pretty emotional. So
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, James Green's in the chat room. Do you believe in animal spirits?
I do. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I believe, I had a dog that passed away a couple months ago, and I heard a noise in my downstairs one night, and I have cameras around my house. Okay. So I
Ah,
turned my camera on in the middle of the night, and there was a big orb floating on near the floor of my kitchen. And I was convinced that was my dog. I was pretty sure that was the spirit of my dog. But yes, I do believe so. They say all dogs go to heaven, right?
but they do come around you. There's many a time when you can be walking and you feel something touching your leg, and it's an animal. It's one of what's passed away.
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely believe so.
When
Yeah.
we talk, I know we briefly touched on earlier about werewolves and dogmen. Where did they come from then?
I think they've always been here. Um, we we've seen an uptick in dogman reports here in the United States, and I've had some stories about them coming out of Europe as well, and Scotland, as a matter of fact. And I'm not sure why they're becoming more prevalent right now. Now there is a distinction between werewolves and dogmen, and I'm actually going to be doing some shows this weekend. I have a couple of different shows that I do. I'm a host at Spaced Out Radio, and I talk about cryptids there. And then I have another show where I do remote viewing. I remote view paranormal events and attacks, people that get attacked by cryptids and dogmen and Bigfoots. So that's on Friday nights. I think it'd be in the morning time where you guys are, but I'm here in the U.S. on the East Coast. But yeah, we have
So what's the
we've
difference between uh, different werewolves and dogmen then?
okay. So werewolves are are originally humans. Okay, they're human shape, human form, and they transform into a werewolf, like a wolf man or wolf woman. Okay, and that is done by processes that involve black magic and dark magic. If you think about, here in the U.S., are the Native American tribes have stories of skinwalkers, and those are created through, I guess you can call it black magic, something similar to that. And so we have those here, and and I've heard stories. I've done a good bit of research on werewolves, and they can come from people who are, the Brotherhood of Satan. A matter of fact, has once you reach certain levels, I'm told that uh, through certain types of magic, certain members can become either a vampire or werewolves. And so there's a lot of information online about that if anyone's interested in looking that up.
I know
But
we briefly talked about. You said there were something happened in Scotland.
yeah, I did. I got a message from a friend who I was on her podcast, uh, Deb and Andy of COTU podcast. I believe she's in Scotland though. Andy's in the UK, and she sent me information about a woman who had car problems, I believe, and she was wanting to know if I would remote view what happened because I guess it was in the news or something. And I'm not sure what kind of relationship she knew the woman, but she'd had car problems and called for help. And when the help came, to help her change her tire or whatever happened, she was gone and she was found down the road quite a ways. And I believe she had been eaten upon. And so it was very odd indeed. But I'm hearing there's reports of werewolves and dogmen in that area.
Yeah, there's in the East Coast in the UK. There's been quite a few sightings of the last quite a few years
Yeah.
by different people who don't know each other, so they can't communicate with each other because they've been interviewed by Paul Sinclair, and it's just strange, but it's happened in the last few years, like you say, in the States as well. There's been more sightings, I think, but people are coming forward now. I think, like before, they,
Yes.
they get ridiculed. More people are coming forward now, saying, "Yeah, I have seen something strange. I don't know what it is."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're also having a lot of dogman reports, and that's really popular right now. People are very interested because we're getting so many reports of them across the United States. Something else that's going on, and by the way, dogmen are, I believe that they were born dog men and women. Okay, I don't think that they are created like a human that transforms. These are something that would be similar to a Sasquatch, but they're two different species, and they look more like a wolf man hybrid kind of. With it's like a man body with a dog or wolf legs and a wolf head or a dog head. Yeah, and I've been looking into those quite a bit. There have been a lot of attacks across the United States over the past, I'm going to say 40 years. 40 years, there's been a lot of attacks. Recently, we've had a lot of attacks where people were the victims of packs of wild dogs mauling them to death. Now, a lot of us are very suspicious of that because we've never seen packs of wild dogs roaming around just destroying people like that at
No,
such a high rate. So I've looked into a couple of, I'm going to say three. I did a show recently where I've remote viewed those specific attacks that were packs of wild dogs.
yeah,
And in one of them, it was actually a mountain lion that attacked a gentleman and killed him. And then the other two were in the same county, the same state, on the same road, two different people that didn't know each other,
right,
at different times, about a month apart. And it was blamed on a pack of wild dogs. Okay, well, people were kind of a little suspicious of that, and it was even more suspicious because the woman who was attacked, she lived for 5 days after she was attacked, and mauled. Sources say the autopsy report said that she had lost over 40% of her flesh in this
Oh,
attack. Yes, it was gruesome. But
sounds like
the hospital staff, her attending doctor, physician, people close to her, they were put under a gag order by a judge to not talk about what happened. They couldn't talk publicly about what happened to her. And so it became very suspicious because there had been sightings of perhaps a dog man in that region, in that area. So I looked into it. I did see when I remote viewed it that it was not a pack of wild dogs. I saw a big animal, one large beast. Now, was it a dog man? I can't say for sure it was a dog man. I kept picking up that it was like a bear, but it wasn't a bear.
right.
Okay.
It was
It
big.
wasn't a bear. I believe it was I believe personally it could have been a mutated Sasquatch species, like a gugway, perhaps. I believe it could have been something like that. But something else I kept picking up on for both of those cases was CERN. Okay, and you're familiar with CERN, the Large Hadron Collider.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we actually have Large Hadron Colliders here in the United States that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
And there's one about 2 counties over from where those attacks happened, and I was picking up on those when I was looking into those attacks. It's called the Oak Ridge Laboratory, and they work with CERN in Switzerland. They have a project called ALICE. It's like a large ion collider
Kaleidoscope.
something. Yeah, whatever the E stands for. But they work with dark matter and things like that. It's just really really odd stuff, and it doesn't sound good.
It doesn't know. The stargazer in the chat room, he said, Jessica, do you think there is a connection between Sasquatch and UFOs?
Yes, I do. I'm not sure what the connection is, but I can tell you that when we're out in the field doing research, we oftentimes have UFOs flying above our heads. Sometimes low flying UFOs. So yeah, we do have a connection. I do
Yeah,
think.
there's Marilena in the chat room said, my cat sits in the same corner every day and keeps looking as though it can think she sees something,
Oh
as though
yeah,
it's looking at something.
cats can see other dimensions that we can't see. I had a cat that his name was Mayu, R.I.P. God bless him. He was a mean cat, but I loved him. But he would sit around and look at things that weren't there that I could not see. But when I would pick up or sense something, some kind of energy that was off in my home, the cat would be picking up on it as well.
Yeah, it's strange when things like that happen.
Yeah,
But they're very sensitive animals, aren't they?
they are very. Yes, I was reading an article not too long ago that they were saying that cats are not. They're not supposed to be. They're aliens or something. I don't know what kind of truth was behind that, but I was reading some people think that they're not of this planet. Yeah.
And early on, you were interested in astrology.
I was. Well, astronomy. I like astrology now, but it was astronomy. Yeah, with the planets and outer space and black holes. I mean, one of my first science projects as a kid was on black holes. So I find that really interesting, considering I'm so interested in UFOs now, and things like that.
Do you
So
think a lot of psychics and paranormal and UFOs are all coming together now to work together?
yeah, oh yeah, I think it's important that we do start working together, because I think a lot of these phenomenon are connected. And so why not? Here in the U.S. we have a lot of different groups that like to study Bigfoot, and then groups that like to study UFOs, and groups that like to study ghosts. Well, why not combine them all together? Because they're all connected, in my opinion. But there's groups that are Bigfoot research organizations. They don't like people talking about UFOs. They don't include them in their reports.
Why
Uh,
not?
because it doesn't fit inside their little box.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. They'll scrub it out of their reports, just like with our UFO network out here. There's a lot of people that are part of the biggest UFO network around, and are field researchers for them, and they don't like anyone bringing up Bigfoot or Sasquatch or any other kind of stuff. It's UFOs only. Now, my groups, we are all inclusive because
Yeah.
we've experienced all of it together, and sometimes at the same time. So
Do you go out most weekends, or when you can
yeah.
join up together?
Oh yeah, whenever we can. Whenever we can. We have a lot of trips planned this fall. We like going out when the weather's nice because it is miserable here in the southern U.S. It gets very hot and humid during the summer, and we still go out when the weather's bad, but I prefer to go out when the weather's nice and cool. So yeah, we get out as much as we can.
Well, I think that's great. You've worked a lot with over 20 years as executive director of the Georgia Communicate for World across about women.
Oh, yeah. I was the executive director of the Georgia Commission on Women. That's a state agency here in Georgia, in the southern U.S. And yeah, I was an advocate for women in the state. Yeah.
So, what does that involve then?
Well, I worked directly under the governor's office, and it's a state agency. So I was there to just advocate for women, especially in on a government level. I spent a lot of times in the halls of our state capitol where I was, I wasn't necessarily lobbying, but trying to help, get bills passed that affected women, or to make sure they didn't pass and things like that, and to help, write legislation and just be an advocate for women on every level. I just spent a lot of my time asking for money for certain projects.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
felt
a
like I was always begging for money.
I think it's a good thing. But
It
you were
was,
there,
yes.
well,
Yeah. It was fun. I was just a baby when I started doing that.
but you, I suppose, as time went on, you got more involved.
Yeah, I did. Well, I did, and that was fun. I actually I haven't been at that job for since about 2014, I guess, when I had my son. I became a stay-at-home mom for a while, and over the past few years, I've gotten back into doing fun things like chasing Bigfoot and things like that. So I no longer work in the government sector, but it's something that I am very passionate about still. You
Women's
know,
rights as well.
yes,
Equal
sure,
pay.
yes, yeah, just humanitarian efforts and things like that. I'm really big on that.
Well, I think it's a good thing, but you do that.
Thank you.
You know, yeah, I'd like to know more about missing persons. How you briefly talked a little bit about how you got involved with it. There must be some really big cases out there. What you've, I'm saying, solved or helped out. Can
Yeah.
you tell the listeners a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't normally know anything about what I'm looking for, and so, like I said, it could either be a statue or a historical event. It could be a UFO sighting, or it could be a person who's potentially dead. Okay, so it's a mixed bag. I never know what I'm going to get when I'm assigned a target, and but I've helped people. There was I'm going to say a kind of a high profile case out of Georgia. There was a gentleman who had gone missing, and Nancy Grace, actually, on that show, if you guys are familiar with her Crime Stories podcast, um, I actually have an uncle who did that podcast with her, and he knew that I did remote viewing, and they had pretty much run out of all the options on this case. They didn't know, uh, that it was almost about to be a cold case, and there was a
Yeah.
gentleman who had gone missing here where I live in Georgia, and they had covered this case on their show, and he just kind of threw it out there to see, well, if you're remote viewing, could you look into this? We're running out of options, and the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
And so I looked into it. The guy had gone missing. He worked at a local gas station, and he left the gas station one night, and he and his wife had been kind of fighting a little bit. So he was going to stay at a friend's house, and the friend said that, they hung out that night, and I didn't know anything about this when I got the target, but this is the actual story was he stayed at his friend's house. Well, then the friend said he woke up the next morning and the guy was gone. Well, it was assumed that uh, something happened with him and his wife. Like the
Right.
wife had either had him killed, or the wife, it was something to do with the spotlight was really on the wife because they had been fighting. Okay. And, but the guy was never seen, and the family, they thought there was some foul play, but the spotlight was kind of being pointed towards the wife and her family, I believe. Well, or maybe he had just taken up and just left. A lot of people just want to disappear, never be seen again, and assume a new identity. Okay. Um, well, I was asked to look into it. And I remote viewed it, and I saw that there was a guy who, there were two men, and they were hanging out at someone's home, and they were intoxicated. Let's put it that way. I can always pick up when someone's drinking or high on drugs, things like that. And they were doing both, I believe. And so, but there was a huge fight. There was a fight, and one man was hit with a fatal blow of some sort. Okay. And he died. Now I kept picking up, it was a teammate. It was a teammate, whatever a teammate was.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out these two guys worked together at the gas station and were buddies. And I don't know if they played on sports teams together or not, but they were teammates. And the guy who lived at the home had actually killed him. And it was probably most likely accidental. I think they just gotten into a little scuffle. And I asked the gentleman who was missing. I said, "Well, where are you?" And I could see his face was covered in mud, and all I could see were his eyes, the whites of his eyes. And he kept telling me, he said, "I'm buried." He's like, "I'm locked up down here, and I'm buried,
Oh,
and I can't get out." And so that told me he was buried. And so, I relayed all this information back to my uncle, and I said, "Hey, this guy, he's probably murdered, or there's something happened to him, but he's underground somewhere. He's buried somewhere." And of course, my uncle, they had looked into this case so much. He said, "Oh, that could not be. No way." He's like, "We have interviewed the guy he was with. He is clean as a whistle. We believe him." And I was like, "Well, you need to look into him a little more." And that was the last I talked to my uncle about it. And but I was he was like, he just kept saying, "No, there's no way. It's not him. It's not him." And I think it was about a month later, I saw on the news that his body had been found. And it turns out the friend had actually sold that house because and the new residents had moved in. They tore off the back porch because they were going to expand their porch.
right.
And when
Yeah.
they did, they were digging down underneath the porch, and they hit concrete. And they thought that was very odd. And so
Okay.
they pulled up the concrete, and they found that guy's body underneath there. He had been the guy who lived there had buried him and poured concrete over his body. And I told them,
You were right.
I was right. I never got any credit for that, though. But it's okay.
Well,
It's
yeah.
okay. I'm not looking for credit, but if I could just help, that's what I'm here for, and
It's
I
a
enjoy doing it.
very interesting subject, is
Yeah,
as well, remote viewing.
it is.
Stargazer said, Jessica, what do you think about the missing 411 cases? Could there
Yes.
be a paranormal link?
Absolutely. I believe there is. I think that with the missing 411 cases, okay, so that is for any viewers that you have today that don't know about that. There's a man named David Politis here in the US. He's written a book series. He's actually, a lot of people don't know this, he's a former Bigfoot field researcher, just like myself. And but he is an investigator, and he has taken all of these reports from missing people from all over our country, and they're mostly at national parks,
Yeah.
government land. There's a lot of people that go missing every year, and the government claims that they don't keep up with the number of the missing people. Okay, so he said it was like pulling teeth to get the numbers and to get the cases from the government. It's like they're trying to charge like millions of dollars for this information, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, because they say they literally don't keep up with the numbers, which is very odd. They
Well, they
keep up with
said
everything else.
there's something like 60, I can't remember now. There's so many million, millions of people go missing in the States
Yes.
every
Yeah.
year.
It's
Where do they go?
astronomical. Yes. It doesn't make any sense. Now the cases that he highlights in his book, I actually have one of his books on my bookshelf here, the North American issue of the Missing 411 series, and there, if you'll find, there are clusters of missing people all over the country, and we have a cluster. We have a cluster where my team investigates. We actually have several locations that are comparable to the Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah. If people are
Right.
familiar with that. We have our locations that we research are very similar, and but you'll see that the locations are also secret. I can't tell you where they are,
Ah,
but they're here in the South, and there are clusters of missing people nearby. Actually, in one of the places that we research, there is a cluster of missing people there. Now, the cases that he investigates, they are very odd and random, and it's like the people were gone and they were never seen again. There was no foul play involved and all that kind of stuff. They're just super anomalous. And so we yeah, my team has encountered so much weird high strangeness out in even in national parks. Like I said, I may have mentioned earlier that we had our team document a portal opening up. We didn't know it was a portal. Nobody knew what it was. But two of our teammates were sent over to check it out, and they disappeared when they got to it. Their heat signatures disappeared.
how long did they have some missing time then?
Yeah, we have a lot of missing time incidences out there as well. No, they didn't experience missing time at that moment. But they were only in it for about a minute at the most, and they both are former military, and they search and rescue guys, special forces, highly trained in being out in the field. And so when they realized the environment was off, they didn't know they had walked into anything. They were just standing in an open field. And the people that saw it were looking through their FLIR and their thermal imaging cameras, and they could see that there was a cube. It looked like a black box. It was actually a white box at first. The temperature changed on it.
Right.
Yeah, it was a large, gigantic cube that showed up out of nowhere in an open field. And it looked like it had a door on the front of it. And they sent two of our members over to it. They walked over to it. They disappeared. And then when they said that when they walked over to it, it felt like walking into a black velvet curtain. And as they walked into it, like I said, they didn't know they were going inside it because they couldn't see it. But the temperature dropped. The vegetation on the ground went from muddy and briars and thick to smooth, like a smooth ground.
Strange.
And the stars disappeared. They couldn't see the stars anymore. Yeah. So they walked out, and then as they walked out of this thing, the whole cube shrunk down in size, and it got small, and then it moved, and then it disappeared.
And just vanished.
It vanished. Yes, it did. Yeah. We have not released that evidence to the public yet.
No.
It will be made public eventually, I believe. But it happened just several years ago, a couple years ago. And actually, the two gentlemen that walked inside of it, there was a radiation spike. We carry all the equipment out there, and we have Geiger counters, which measure radiation.
Yeah.
And there was a radiation spike there at that time. And they both got health problems after that. And one of them is actually deceased now. He got a bad heart problem. Now, I can't say for sure it was related to that. We can't say that. But it was highly suspicious. And the other gentleman, he has had an aggressive form of cancer ever since. So it's all of this research is dangerous in a lot of ways.
Dangerous. I've always said that. People don't realize how dangerous it is. In some areas you go in, you can feel some sort of energy sometimes when you go to these places. And then, if somebody visits and you don't tell them, they go, this is a bit weird. I don't like it here.
Right. Exactly. That's why it's so important to go with your gut and use your intuition when you're in any kind of situation. Just have situational awareness is what I call it, what my team calls it. And that's if something feels off, it's probably off. So hightail it out of there. Get out of danger if you feel like you're in danger.
Exactly. I know when we talked about missing people, Jennifer's in chat room. She said that some of it could be human trafficking.
Yes, absolutely. And I am not convinced that cube that we experienced, that my team experienced out in the field, was not something that belongs to our government. Okay, it doesn't, just because you see a cube doesn't mean that it's a portal from another dimension, which it could be. I think it is. It could be, absolutely. We don't know what it was, but it could also be some sort of technology that our government has gotten, and maybe that's where the Bigfoots are coming in and out. Maybe they're, I don't know. It's like the more that we research.
I know in some states you're not allowed to shoot Bigfoot.
Yeah, I don't know. You said
No.
shoot?
You're not allowed to shoot a Bigfoot.
By law? Is that what you mean?
In some states, I do know.
Yeah, it's
so the government do realize and know about Bigfoot.
Oh yeah. Well, they don't openly acknowledge it, but yes, of course they do. I believe they do, and Dogman as well. All of these cryptids. I mean, the guys that I go out and do my research with are all, most of them have worked in government at some point. I worked in government myself. We all have. Most of us, they're either in the military, former military, current military, Department of Defense. Firemen, EMTs, any kind of, we have nurses on our team. We have all sorts of interesting people, we have biologists, scientists, doctors. But I am convinced, this is me personally, I'm convinced our government does know. They are very well aware of these creatures.
I'm sure they do. Do you think there's more people coming out now and talking about UFO sightings?
Yes, absolutely. It's if you just go onto social media, everybody's talking about it. A lot of people have had sightings. I have a show where I talk to people about their cryptid sightings, Bigfoot, Dogman, all that stuff, aliens. I mean, I've had up close and personal encounters with ETs personally, and so I think a lot of people, it's becoming more okay to talk about it. It's kind of out there. I think there's more of us that have experienced it, and the stigma is not so bad now. I think there used to be more of a stigma where people would look at you like you were crazy if you talked about it. And now every show on TV is about ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot. Yeah.
I've had an encounter with Men in Black.
Yeah, well, I have not personally. Yeah, but our team has.
They've knocked on the door where I was dog sitting.
Yeah.
In 2017, and
wow,
that was frightening.
I can only imagine.
For quite a few days leading up to that, and on the night when they knocked on the door, and I opened the door, I thought, because there was like two glass doors, I thought, policemen, what policemen? Because it looked all black. And then when I went to the door, there was two of them stood there. And they're saying, some of the things you've been seeing is not, you're not true. It's nothing. And one of them just leaned over and just said, we're watching you from now on.
Wow.
Turned around.
From now on?
Yeah. And just disappeared. I ran upstairs, looked out the window, gone.
They were gone. Yeah, that's interesting.
My good friend Paul Sinclair is a very good investigator. It was dark when I opened the door, but when I go upstairs, it seemed to light. It wasn't as dark. And when I told Paul about it, he said, and I was working a charity shop, and he said, "There's something wrong, isn't there?"
Wow.
And I told his story. He went straight to that place and knocked on everybody's door and asked them if they'd got a video camera or anything going. Yeah. And nobody had one.
Wow.
That's a true professional investigator on the job straight away.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sometimes we'll get warnings, especially if we're getting too close to the truth.
Well, I think you do. I think you're being watched some of the time as well.
Oh, yes.
Certain,
I
certain areas you go, you see the
Yeah.
same people there.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix. We're living in the Matrix or something, you know. We're being watched. I doing remote viewing is one thing, but doing remote viewing and talking about it publicly is another thing. Okay, and that's not something I ever planned to do. And I kind of was warned about it when I first started learning remote viewing. Like, just got to be careful what you view, okay, and because there are certain things that are off limits.
You know,
And
when you were in government, was you ever not told to talk about UFOs or paranormal or
No, I didn't tell people that I was doing that. Okay, so
right?
I didn't want them to think I was crazy. So, but yeah, I didn't talk about it very much. But I didn't work in any kind of government sector where I was closely watched like that. I mean, I worked for a women's organization, so it was it wasn't a big deal. But yeah, I have, since I've been doing my remote viewing show and talking publicly about remote viewing, and actually doing targets and looking into events and things like that. I have been gently warned, let's just say. I had a friendly reminder, especially before, it was actually before my show. I had looked into the Apollo 11 moon landing.
Oh yes.
That was a big no-no. I shouldn't have done that one. So I got a warning about 2 hours before my show was going live about that. So I had to watch what I said. And and I know there are a lot of people that were upset and they're like, well, you should tell us anyways. Well, I'm a single mom, and I do this for fun, and when it stops being fun, I'm not going to do this anymore. Okay. And that was one of those days where I felt like, well, this isn't fun anymore.
That's exactly true, is that?
Yeah.
Jennifer's just saying, have you found that when you remote viewing, some bad spirits or aliens can see you? I have found it's important not to go into certain places.
Absolutely, Jennifer. That is so true. I'm very particular about what I am remote viewing, and I with my show that I do now, where I'm doing paranormal attacks and things like that, I have to really protect myself and protect my energy. And I've been remote viewing for about 10 years now, and I've done a lot of it. We are taught right from the get go to not uh, come in contact or to pay any mind to lower vibrational frequencies and like the lower energies and things like that, just to bypass all that and don't let it distract you. And I mean, that's true in everyday life. you know
I
there's
would say you should protect yourself at all
Yes.
times when you're going to certain areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We all need to be energetically protecting ourselves, and that's in everyday life. It's not just in regards to the paranormal. Even when you go to the grocery store, or here we have Walmart. Okay. It is always a joke. You got to protect yourself before you go to Walmart. Okay. They got good people watching there, but we do need to, because there's a lot of what I would consider to be energy vampires. And especially if you are protecting your energy and you're really good at protecting your energy,
Yes.
and you are on a higher vibrational frequency, there are, I call them clingers on, like leeches that would like to come and take your energy from you. And so it's important to just protect yourself, protect your energy.
Where do you see your future lies? What about
It's a
your
good
future
question.
and what you're wanting to do for the future?
That's a great, no one has asked me that before, Bob.
Ah,
I can appreciate that. Yeah, I've been living in the moment right now, which is really interesting. I've just come off of getting a divorce and all this stuff, and going public with my research. I just went public last year, talking about this, and lo and behold, here I am, on shows, and talking about my experiences. So it's very fresh and very new. I hope in the future that I can continue to do this, and to continue the research out in the field, and just trying to wake a lot of people up, and just through my story, and trying to elevate the consciousness of everybody in this planet. I'm honestly just a nobody, but I'm out here having fun.
it's
And
funny you say that. I say that sometimes. I'm just
just
really.
nobody,
I'm a
you
guy who
know.
goes out researching with a good friend of mine, Paul Sinclair, who writes books. And
Yeah.
and Paul said, "You're not nobody, Bob." you do same what I do with researching.
Yeah, that's me. I'm just having a lot of fun, and I just really love talking about these subjects and meeting new people, and swapping ideas. And it's pretty amazing when you start putting your minds together what the solutions you can come up with, and just solving some of these mysteries.
I think
You
you
know,
can learn something nearly every day.
yeah,
Even on social media, when somebody gets in touch with you, they say, "What do you think about that then?" You
yeah.
think, "Yeah, and I thought about that."
Well, it's breaking everyone out of these three-dimensional boxes that we've been taught to live in. I'm breaking out of the matrix, and I'm hoping to take people with me. So yeah, in the future though, I do see me hopefully doing some more of this, what we're doing right now.
What about writing books?
Yeah, you know what? I would love to write a book one day. I've been approached a couple of times, actually numerous times, about writing a book. I haven't had time yet. I've been on a whirlwind of
You're enjoying what you're doing. That's why.
yeah, I love it. But I did mention that I do keep journals, and I do have a lot of my experiences all written down already, and I will be making a book one day. I will.
You know,
My life is an adventure.
when you talk about groups and what's different with other groups than yours.
Yeah, well, I'm a member of three different groups. The difference between my group and most groups out there are we're all trained in remote viewing. And so it adds a whole other layer to what we're doing out there. And I like to think that we have a really solid group of people out there researching together. Everyone is very psychically switched on, which is
And
very
I
important.
suppose they're all from different walks of life as well.
All different, yes, all different. And but we all kind of have the same goal. I mean, we all have different goals in a way, but ultimately the same goal, which is just to try to figure out what in the heck's going on out here. you know
And
what
what are
it,
these things?
what
What
is
about
it? Yeah.
government? What about disclosure? Is that ever gonna happen?
I think it's been happening. I think that there has been disclosure already. People just, I don't know. I think there has been, and then there hasn't been, if that makes sense. I believe that the information has been leaked out a lot. Now, here's my take on it. We
Right.
are the disclosure, Bob. You and I, we're the ones disclosing this. I'm out in the field, having boots on the ground, research going on, and having my own experiences, and I'm telling the world about my experiences. So I believe that myself, you, everyone that's speaking out publicly about it, we are the disclosure. And I don't think that we should wait around for our governments to tell us what's going on. I think it's up to us.
Well, I think that's a great thing to end on. Really, there's loads of people
Yeah,
doing podcasts now, so
lots.
yeah,
Yeah, a lot.
we are getting the word out, aren't we?
We are absolutely.
Say,
We are the disclosure. Yeah.
when you talk about your own and your own podcast, when do you do your podcast so people out
Yeah.
there can listen?
Yeah. Well, I have I do shows 4 days a week now. I
Oh,
actually just started a brand new daytime show today. It's daytime in the US. It may be nighttime over there where y'all are, but
yeah,
I'm doing a daytime show on Wednesdays at noon. It's 12 o'clock noon Eastern here on the East Coast of the
5 o'clock
US.
UK time.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, and it's called a glitch in the matrix. Okay, and but it's about my cryptid research and my friends' cryptid research and things like that, and timeline splits and hidden history and lost giants. I love lost giants. And so that's on Wednesdays. On Friday nights, I do a remote viewing investigation show
Right.
uh, with the guys from Texas Front Porch here they're out in Texas and Michigan, and I look into paranormal attacks. That's Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast here, and then on Saturday and Sundays I am the weekend host or a weekend host at Spaced Out Radio, so you guys can find that. All of these shows are on my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. Also, you can find my weekend shows on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel and on my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. So yeah,
Sounds amazing.
thank you. I'm having a blast. It's really fun.
You are having a blast
I
from
am.
the past.
I am. It seems like a lot, but to me, it's just fun. It's just all good fun.
But you're enjoying life now.
Finally,
Fine.
yes,
I like.
finally. I wanted to do it now before it's too late. We don't know how long we have here, so might as well have fun.
Well, I always say that every day brings something new.
Yeah, it does. Totally.
There's always somebody got to phone you with something.
Yeah, I know. That's why you have to protect your energy. Yeah,
And don't, yeah, exactly, because you don't want to drain yourself.
that's right. That's right.
And that's what happens with quite a few of us. I think you get too involved with it sometimes,
Yeah.
and you just tire yourself out, and you need a break then from it, and then
Yes.
you're back in it full throttle again.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to stay away from the television and I spend a lot of time online myself, but I just we got to protect our energy, stay away from the fear mongering and stuff like that, and get
Oh
out in
my
nature. Get out into the woods and go explore nature and just have fun and see the beauty in everything around you all the time, just in the little things. Just find joy in the little things. And yeah, maybe you'll get out in the woods and see a Bigfoot, you know.
God. Oh, that would be absolutely amazing.
Oh
I'd,
yeah.
I'd love to see a Bigfoot myself or a werewolf. Maybe
Yeah,
one day
I don't
I
oh,
will.
I don't know. I'd like to see a werewolf from a distance. Not up close.
Lots of people being in chat room said what a great show it is. What a great guest you are as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for being
Great
here
show
and thank you
again,
for having me.
Robin. Yeah. And Jessica, yeah, there are lots of people saying fantastic show again.
Thank
Well,
you.
yes, so thank you for coming on the show.
I've
It's been
had a blast.
yeah, and me too. Well, my guest on Friday is Dave Edmonds. Um, He'll be a great guest on Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, and 8 p.m. in the UK. I'd like to say thank you again. Good night and God bless wherever you are around the world, and always keep safe. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.